All right, so out here on Beach and Kernan, it's in the Sprouts Market at the 100% Chiropractic.
How you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. How about yourself?
I'm pretty good. How's your body feeling?
Amazing.
Okay. Let's see. I'm gonna get this set up, and we're gonna take some X-rays so we can see what's going on with the shoulder, though.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. Let's stand on that for me. I'm gonna walk on over here, and I'll let you stand here and face this wall. Okay. All right. So we're gonna look at this curve in your neck first, because all of our nerves of our body, including low back nerves all the way down, have to pass through this one single curve. Also, the nerves that supply that shoulder come directly from the neck. So we're going to look very closely at it. Bring your shoulder up against Bucky here. Perfect.
What you called it, Bucky?
Bucky. So that part of the machine over there is called the Bucky, and Dr. Rose actually nicknamed him Bucky.
Oh, that's good.
All right, so I know we had surgery on this shoulder years ago.
But the humerus.
Yes, which is that bone that fits into that shoulder joint.
Mm-hmm.
Did we start having shoulder pain after that?
I don't know. That could have been. No, well, it seemed like I can recall, and you will be able to confirm this, but it seemed like I can recall that somebody said the tension in my shoulder was coming from my hips.
It was coming from the hips.
I think, but I could be mistaken.
Okay, let's turn face you this way. So we'll look at hips too, definitely. But when it comes to like tension in the shoulders, we definitely look at the curve in the neck.
I see. Okay.
Because those nerves have to supply the shoulder, come from the neck, but then also to the muscles here, they actually attach to the back of the head here.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we don't have proper curve in the neck, these muscles here get stretched, and they also have to work harder to support the head coming forward with loss of curve.
There you go. Colossal curve.
That's gonna go right below your eyes.
Cool, man.
All right. So with this one, I want you to open your mouth really wide. That's kind of weird. And you can close. That was awesome. So opening your mouth, get your teeth out the way so we can see that first bone of the spine from the front. Right above that bone is our brainstem. Brainstem connects brain and spinal cord and has a hand in a lot of automatic functions. So like sleeping, breathing, emotions, blood pressure, hormones, energy levels, digestion, balance and coordination. Pressure on the brainstem can even cause headaches and migraines. Also, that's where most of the rotation in our neck comes from.
Perfect.
All right. So we're going to bring you over this way. We're going to get a look at that shoulder.
Oh, so depending on what I tell you in advance, you focus more X-rays on it?
Yes and no. If there are any other issues that are not spinal related, then we'll take an X-ray on it just to see what's going on with it and see how we need to focus on it.
Perfect.
Okay, so I do see where we have that possible surgery at.
Oh, I thought it's like an instant photo you get, huh? Okay, I didn't even realize. I thought, I'm thinking you got to go to a dark room and.
Oh no! Times have changed.
Oh man, we're in the 21st century.
Yes. Now, where I was practicing at in Memphis, we still had to take the cassette, drop the cassettes, and everything. So this right here,
instant. Oh yeah, I didn't even realize. I'm thinking I'm still some sense of privacy. Now you all in my stuff already.
Let's bring you over this way. Now we're going to look at lower back and hips. Okay.
Okay.
Bring your head down. Take a teeny tiny step forward. Perfect. So yeah, we'll look at hips. Hips are the most mobile weight-bearing joints. And because they are very mobile, that means they're not very stable. So when the hips are off, the rest of the body above and below can adopt and adapt to those patterns.
Okay.
And we definitely want to keep them mobile, but also work on stability.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna turn you and face you back towards that wall again. I'm gonna look at this curving lower back, and we wanna see how healthy those discs are. Arms up like this. All right, and a step to the left here, and then take a step forward. Perfect. Awesome. You can drop arms. We are all done.
Perfect.
All right.
That was good.
I'll send back in. I'm pretty sure he does want to talk to you, okay?
All right.
All right.
And thanks for the education.
Of course. That's what we're here for.
All right.
What's up with the shoulder, man?
Well, you know, this what you fit way back. You remember?
I thought it was your mid.
No, it was always it was my upper left shoulder, and it used to tense up all the time. Like I had just gotten used to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you were at Life, it and I was doing those, it had went away.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, slowly over the years, it you know started to come back a little more and more.
Yeah. So we do. Did she go through?
Well, she gave me some education, but she didn't go through.
Okay. So what we do here is we're big on corrective care. So basically what that means is our job is to make sure we're making structural changes to the spine because, you know, we're under the belief that the nervous system controls everything, which we know. All right, your brain, spinal cord, nerves control every function of your body inside and out. The goal from a chiropractic perspective is to make sure that we're getting rid of what we call interferences or subluxations out of the spine. All right. So, for instance, if there's an interference up here, anywhere up here in the spine, or by interference of pressure on a nerve, so it's interrupting that nerve flow from the brain to the body. If there's an interference going on down here, that can affect wherever that nerve goes. So let's just say, for instance, it's going to the left shoulder, right, down into the arms. So because these nerves in this area that goes down to the left shoulder into the arm is being interfered with, then that's where symptoms start to come out, right? So numbness, tingling, pain, etc., right? A number of different things. The goal is to take pressure off of that nerve, right? From a chiropractic perspective. Most people are superficial, so what do? They address the symptom, not the cause. So they'll go to the cabinet, they'll go grab ibuprofen, Advil, whatever, because that's going to help ease their pain. But that doesn't fix what's causing the pain. What we try to do is say, hey, let's fix what's causing the pain, not just mask it temporarily, right? And so that's from a corrective standpoint, we're saying, hey, let's make structural changes. So if I know that there should be a natural curvature in the spine, right, and there's not a natural curvature in the spine, right, there's a reverse curve, or there's a straighter curve that's putting constant pressure on that nerve, then that means naturally we need to work on correcting that as much as possible, right? And that's where the process comes into play, right? So things like your consistent adjustments, your stretching, etc. All right. A lot of times, what most people tend to end up doing is they'll say, "All right, well, when I feel pain, I'll do something about it." They'll address it. They're reactive instead of being proactive, right? Because pain comes and goes. You can be like this. You have pain one day, no pain the next day. All right, but the issue is still there, which is what's causing the pain to be recurring. All right, so what we always try to say is, hey, let's not be reactive, be proactive. Right, fix the issue. Right, and that's going to take some time. And even when you do fix it, you want to try to maintain it. Just like you go into the gym, right? You want to lose a certain 20 pounds? All right, lose the 20 pounds. You got to go on a regimen to lose those 20 pounds. Now, once you lost the 20 pounds, what do?
Go find it. Where did I drop it off? Where did I leave it?
You know, what people tend to do, some people, they'll just stop. I reached my goal, and then they stop. Then other people, what they'll tend to do is they'll say, all right, well, I want to maintain this. I don't want to gain that 20 pounds again. I want to be able to maintain 20 pounds. I want to be able to maintain that weight loss and that health. I want to be proactive, etc. Same thing with chiropractic. I tell patients, I say, hey, look, just because we fixed it doesn't mean that you just go cold turkey. You can do that if you want to. That's your choice. However, you want to maintain, all right? Maintenance looks different for everybody. For some people, maintenance can look once a month. Others, it could be a couple times a month. Some could be once a week. It just varies from person to person. It depends on what their goals are individually, right? ultimately what our goal is to help you reach your goal, whatever that may look like. All right. For some people, it's, hey doc, I got in an accident 2 weeks ago. You know, I'm in extreme pain. You know, what can I do? Well, we got to get you back to pre-injury status, is what we call it. Right. And so, in other words, we're going to treat you to the point to where we get you to where you can function the way you functioned prior to the accident. Right, which is why we do what we do. We put people on certain care plans. Right? Everybody's different. For some people, they can be treated for 3 months. Some people can be treated for 6 months. Some people can be treated up to a year. Right, it just all depends on the person and what they're dealing with and their individual goals or whatever. You know.
So interference is pinching the nerve. What's supplementation?
It's the same thing.
Okay.
Right? Supplementation is just a fancy way of saying there's a dysfunction or misalignment in the spine that's putting pressure on that nerve. You know, so they can be used in the chain. Understood.
Because I remember you showed me before, like some of them people, because they didn't maintain it and they stayed in that bad form, it ended up calcifying. That's what it looked like anyway. It was like a mass around that part.
Yeah, but that's the same thing when you talk about, like you said, calcify. So essentially, when your bones start to deteriorate, or your joints, I should say, your joints start to deteriorate, instead of you having those healthy spaces between the bones, over time those spaces start to degenerate. And so as those spaces degenerate, the functionality of that joint starts to go down, which means that joint doesn't function as well as it once did. So a joint that's healthy, it's going to function pretty good. You're going to have good movement, good range of motion, mobility, etc. Right? But as that joint starts to reduce, you don't have that range of motion, that mobility that you once did. Right? This is why it's so important to be proactive, right? And stay ahead of it so you prevent it from getting this far. Because most people, they wait until they get this far before they start going to do something about it, you know? And by this time, it's like, all right, well, we're going to still do some work, but now we're trying to prevent it from getting even worse, right? Whereas you could have got it, you could have attacked it earlier when it was healthier, right? And prevented it from even getting that far. Yeah. But we live in a how do I feel type of society. Do I feel good today? If I feel good today, then I am good. At least that's the mindset, you know. But sometimes just because we feel good doesn't necessarily mean we are good. That's why you're supposed to always get checked. The same reason somebody goes to the dentist, right? Why? You want to make sure everything's going good in there. Sometimes, this is my opinion, it's a side note, people put more value on their teeth than they do their spine.
Because that's the part of their bones they can see.
Like, that's
messed up.
You put more value in your teeth. I'll go spend $8,000 on my mouth and your spine jacked up. You know, but the reality is your spine is more important than your teeth.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying you need to be walking around with lungs all day, you know, with jacked up teeth, but your spine is more important than your teeth. You know, but people don't see it outside of their mind, right? It's in the back. I don't see it every day, but when you notice it and you start feeling it, then you actually start to want to do something about it.
Oh yeah,
you know,
that's what I was telling her. She said, "Are you stressed?" I said, "No, but to be honest, I don't know for sure yet." Once y'all adjust me, I'm pretty sure it might unlock some other things that I didn't realize that I was just dealing with and ignoring. Because, you know, it is what it is.
Right. But, you know, like I said, it's depending on what somebody comes in with and what they're dealing with, right? Our job is kind of like, it's like an investigation. Like, we try to investigate to see, okay, what could possibly be the issue? And if this is leading this way. Now, usually when there's a MOA or a mechanism of injury, MOI, I'm sorry. When there's a mechanism of injury like a car accident, somebody got hit from behind, those usually always present similarly, right? If I got 20 cases that come in and all of them were rear end collisions, then 9 times out of 10, they're gonna probably present similar, right? Because it was a similar accident. You know, driver sitting at a red light or a stop sign, somebody rams in the back of them, their body shoots forward, and their head flips back, right? Classic whiplash. You know, so I'm probably gonna treat them similarly, right? With the exceptions of, you know, there are exceptions, right? Every now and again. So you have different scenarios, and then you want to rule out certain things because rear-end collisions can then, you know, they can also cause like herniated or bulging discs, whether it be in the neck or in the lower back. And so when you have a herniated or bulging disc, that can lead to what we call a permanent injury. And then a permanent injury, of course, can lead to lifestyle changes, right? So a lifestyle change can be, you know, Cindy, who's 35 years old, who has 2 kids, 3 and a 5-year-old, and she was taking care of them normally until she got in this accident where she got rear-ended. And now it's hard for Cindy to make breakfast for her kids. It's hard for Cindy to take her kids to daycare. It's hard for Cindy to pick up a 3-year-old. So it's affecting her quality of life, her quality of living. And so what we're doing is trying to give her that quality of living back, you know, to where Cindy can do all the things that she once did. In some cases, we may not be able to get her back to 100%, right? 110. And so this is when we start, in my opinion, this is where community care comes into play, right? So who do I need to refer her out to, right? Because chiropractic might not be the only thing she needs. She might need PT. She might need, you know, depending on what she's dealing with, she might need pain management. She may need to get an injection, you know. She may need to do 6 weeks of physical therapy or whatever, you know. She might need mental health therapy because it's messing with her mind, you know. Not only is she stressed out because she's in pain, but now she can put her in a deep-seated depression, you know. So all these things start coming into play. A lot of people don't even think about it.
Oh yeah, because it sounds like what you're saying is, if using a car accident, a mechanism of injury, MOI, using a car accident, it sounds like what you're saying is there could be a lot of stuff that stem from this car accident, but a person should come to a chiropractor and essentially like checking your spark plugs first before you throw out the whole engine.
Right.
Check your spark plugs. Let me make sure there's no interference, no subluxation.
Right.
Make sure your spark plugs and spark wires and fuel injector is good. And then, hopefully, probably most times, or 50-50, you good. But if it's not, you want to make sure it's not just a physical, biological adjusted thing before you start doing all this other stuff that may cost more time, more money, more side effects.
So you need somebody that can like kind of direct traffic where it needs to go. You know, this is why a lot of times like people come to the chiropractor first after the accident, you know, and then the chiro, at least they should know when they need to start sending to different places. You know, that's why, you know, you work with a team. I've always been about like community, but just working with a team of people that can get the person the quality care that they need, you know, versus just, oh, well, and I have some colleagues, unfortunately, where, oh, they only saw chiro. They only went to the chiro. And there may be some, you know, a few circumstances where that may be all they need. Just go in, get adjusted, get some treatment, and you're good. But in some cases, it is not that simple. You know, in some cases, it's like somebody come to me and they got, you know, they got constant shoulder issues. Yeah, I might adjust the shoulder, we might look at the shoulder a little bit. But if it's constant shoulder issues, you know, and it ain't resolving within a couple weeks, then maybe they might need to go see ortho. You know, so orthopedist might be the one that they need, not chiro. You know, somebody selfish might be like, no, all they need is chiro. Like, no. Nah, we send you to ortho, let the ortho look at your shoulder and see what's going on.
There's more than one way to skin a cat.
Yeah.
Do you know where that phrase come from? It's more than one. How much time you got? You know, they say it's more than one way to skin a cat. The way where that phrase came from, women used to wear cat fur back in the day, right? And what they used to do to get the fur off the cat is throw live cats into boiling water. And some finally say, there has to be more than one way to skin a cat. A live cat?
Make it easy.
But why do they gotta be alive? Like crazy. So I know they already set my appointment for next week. What should I expect?
So basically what you're gonna do is when you come back, we're gonna go through your x-rays. After we go through your x-rays, we'll talk about it a little bit. Then we'll get you adjusted. After we get you adjusted, we'll sit down, come up with a game plan essentially. Right? What steps we need to take to make structural changes, right, in the future, right, until we get to maintenance. Right? But that's basically all it is. You come in, you sit down in the room up front, we'll go through your x-rays, and then after you go through your x-rays, answer the questions you have, then we'll get you adjusted. After we get you adjusted, then we'll sit down and we'll come up with a game plan. All right, here's the steps we need to take and go from there.
Okay.
All right, that's it.
Perfect. Appreciate it.
Alright, so we'll go through your x-rays with you in here before we get you adjusted. But first I like to go through what I look for when I'm analyzing x-rays, so that way when we pull yours up, you know exactly what we're looking at. I think I mentioned this to you before. Structure determines function, so the way your spine looks and moves directly correlates with some of those things that you do feel periodically. If you do have questions, please ask. I love questions. Most of the time I know the answer, but if I don't, I'll find it for you.
Perfect.
Okay?
Thank you.
So these are the things that we look for. Very simple, but very, very significant. And some of these things I did mention to you on your first visit. But the first and most important thing we look for is a healthy curve. So this backward C banana shaped curve you see here, we need that in neck and in low back. But most importantly in our neck, because all of our nerves of our body have to pass through that one single curve. That's why we call that curve the arc of life. We have a range at where we need that curve to be between 40 and 45 degrees because everybody's different, so everyone's normal is going to be different. But that sweet spot is going to be about 42 degrees. That's going to ensure that the spinal cord that runs inside is tension free. There's no tension and pulling on it, so that way the signals from the brain to the body get to where they need to go efficiently.
Perfect.
Further away from this curve that we are, those signals slow down, and the body's going to process that as the wrong information. And eventually, that information is going to be processed as pain.
Okay, so it sounded like the way everything has to go through that. And if the angle is off,
Yes.
it's going to process it at pain, but are you saying pain in that area or just pains in different parts of my body?
Pains in different parts of your body.
Okay.
And that goes into some of what I'm getting ready to say too. This curve in our neck keeps the rest of our spine from breaking down. So when we lose the curve in the next curve has to pick up for that, and then the next curve has to pick up for that. So there's a lot of adaptation that goes on with us losing the curve in the neck.
Okay.
And the curve also helps us to maintain the rest of these things here too. Next thing would be atlas. That's why I had you open your mouth really wide when I took your x-rays. So this is your atlas right here. Right above that is our brain stem, which connects our brain and spinal cord and has a hand in a lot of automatic functions. Also, that's where most of the rotation in our neck comes from. So we need to make sure brain stem is pressure free from a musculoskeletal standpoint. And how we do that, we keep this atlas angle at about 29 degrees. And what that's going to look like is about equal spacing above and below in the airplane taking off. Okay. Next, we look at the bones. We need our bones nice and square in shape, and uniform in shape and in size. And in between those bones, we need nice healthy discs. Now, we won't see them on x-ray because they're made mostly of water, but looking at the spacing in between the bones will tell us how healthy those discs are. We need them thick and hydrated, the same thickness in the front and in the back, because our discs do help us to move, but they also help to protect our spine. And how they do that, they actually help to support the curve, so the curve can hold weight and distribute that weight evenly. Kind of acts as a spring, if you can kind of picture that. And then also too, they act as shock absorbers. So just like when you're driving around down the road, you don't feel every bump or groove because our cars have those built-in shock absorbers. Same thing discs do for our spine. And also too, discs, they also help to make the holes that our nerves come out of. So I'm gonna walk over here so you can kind of see that. So you see how this bone and this bone comes together to form this hole?
Mm-hmm.
That's the hole that the nerve has to come out of. Now, what keeps that hole open is this disc right here. So if we lose this space, this hole will get smaller and that nerve won't have efficient room to pass through. And so that's when we get nerve interference or slowing the signals from brain to body down. Because that's how the brain does talk to the body, the nerves off of the spinal cord. But again, further away from the curve that we are, that creates stress and tension on the bones and the discs, and it eventually closes up those holes those nerves come out of. And so that compromises healthy nerve flow, which is ultimate goal. Again, having brain and body talk for you.
Cool.
So these are the things that we look for, and how that particularly can pertain to you. That we sometimes have some shoulder discomfort. And I think I mentioned this on your first visit too. The nerves that supply that shoulder come directly from the neck.
Got it.
All right, so now we'll go through your x-rays so that way you can see exactly where you are. And then we'll talk about, of course, where you need to be too.
Perfect.
All right, so we are going to start with your arc of life. Green is where you want and need to be. Red is where you are. What do we see?
Hold on. So, all right. Can you? I think I see what I see, but can you point it out to me based off what you taught me?
Yes.
Okay.
So, like I mentioned, first and most important thing, healthy curve. So we need the backward seat banana shape curve. Between 40 and 45 degrees is good, but sweet spot again is 42. And so this is about where we need that curve to be, but you can see how far forward your curve has come, and then also it's straightened out a little bit. So out of 42 degrees, we have about 19 degrees of a curve.
And you're saying that could be what's causing the discomfort in my shoulder?
So partially.
Okay.
So I know we had the surgery. So it could have been over time, those muscles, that joint actually adapting to that surgery. But then also too, the nerves that supply that shoulder do come from the neck. And so it's like a domino effect. So we do see here as well how the bones are changing shape here, right? So again, those bones and then the discs in that area, which we are losing a little bit of disc space too, those are what keep those holes that our nerves come out of open. And so when we're looking at this area here, that area correlates with the nerves that have to supply that shoulder. So between surgery adaptations and this, yes, that's why we're feeling those issues in that shoulder.
And those pieces right here are supposed to be squares.
Yes,
but
definitely more square, yeah.
But that's indication that I'm not drinking enough water?
Not necessarily. Water is key, absolutely, key of life, definitely. But it's more so of curve, loss of curve. So it happens like a s'more. What happens to the marshmallow and the chocolate when you bring the graham crackers together?
It's smushy. Yes.
So essentially with loss of curve and us not having equal weight distribution throughout the weight, gravity is going straight down. And where it's settling is here. That's the most weight bearing part of your spine. So that's essentially why we're losing the disc space, and then also bones are changing shape. So I'm not sure if you've ever heard of bone spurs.
I've heard of it, but it like chips of bone?
Somewhat, yes.
Okay.
So when a joint is under increased stress and tension, the body is going to lay down more bone to help compensate for that increased stress and tension. So we are self-healing. We know if we get a cut, our body's going to put it back together. Same issue with the bone spurs, with the body trying to lay down more bone. That's the body's attempt at trying to heal itself, but that's not a way we need it to heal itself, because it's letting us know that that joint is starting to break down. And so essentially that is what's happening here, because we have lost curve.
Got it.
Yeah. We'll look at your atlas too. Again, we need to take it off like an airplane. What do you see about your atlas up here?
It's stalling.
Yes, we're a little grounded, definitely. And part of that does come from loss of curve. So if you can picture, if we were to straighten this curve out here, you see how that kind of flattens that atlas out? So we bring curve back. That'll help with having that atlas sitting in that sweet spot. And then that top number up there, 0.63 inches, that measures how far forward curve has come versus where it should be. And that's significant because with every inch that curve comes forward, that can double weight of head on shoulders. And on average, human head can weigh between 8 to 12 pounds. So we are over in half an inch. So whatever your head weighs,
Yeah. It's exacerbated.
that means your brain is big. That's all.
I got to hold a lot of information.
Yes, that's it. But that means that we're carrying a lot of tension here because we are over half an inch. Okay. And that's significant too, especially when it comes to the shoulder as well, because these muscles here, they actually attach to the back of the head, come down the neck, out to the shoulders, back in, and down the back. So when we lose the curve, head and neck comes forward, these muscles get stretched, and they also have to work harder to support head and neck coming forward. So that's how all of that plays a role into what we're feeling in that shoulder.
Okay, good. All right.
And then we will go here and here. So this is neck, upper, and mid back from the front. This is also that shoulder joint. So this is the left side, left shoulder, right side, and this is where your midline should be. So your spine should go straight up and down through that midline. When I say your spine, these dots that you see here, those are your spinous processes. They should go straight up and down through that midline. I know it's kind of blurry, kind of hazy, but we do have some rotation going on. And so a lot of the rotation is, in this area at least, is going towards that left side, which is the side where we do have a lot of that discomfort. And then when it comes to the neck per se, it's trying to move away from the side of discomfort. So as far as this mid back is concerned, it's curved opposite. If you can see that from that chart over there, it's curved opposite of neck and low back because it's designed to compensate. So whatever neck and low back aren't doing, what they can't do, that mid back is going to work harder to pick up for that. And so essentially, that's what we have here when it comes with the rotation. Now it's not significant, but it is present. Okay. So in this area, removing that rotation, adjustments definitely will be key for that. But then also re-educating those muscles, because muscles do attach to bone. And when the muscles aren't doing what they're supposed to do, they will pull and keep bone out of place, and vice versa. That's why we do pair adjustments with soft tissue work in the office, so that way we can get even more progress than if we were just doing one. And then when it comes to this shoulder here, so one, I'm assuming this is where we had that surgery, and you can see where that bone has healed. Okay. But again, that could be partially why we're having the issues in the shoulder too, because of the adaptation to the surgery, and then the healing. And then we also have some malleable joint space decreased in that shoulder area. Okay. And so sometimes that can cause pain on its own, decreased range of motion, so on and so forth. So as far as shoulder, it's very, very mobile, or at least it should be. And because it's very mobile, it's not as stable as our more immobile joints. So with us working to keep it mobile, we also want to work on the stability of it. And so with the adjustments, bringing the curve back into the neck, that's going to really, really help with keeping that shoulder stable while we work on the range of motion.
Good.
Then we'll go to lower back. So this is left hip, this is right hip, this is where your midline should be. So just like in the last x-ray we saw, those spinous processes should go straight up and down through that midline. What do you see?
It's kind of, yeah.
Everything trying to go to that left side.
And it's kind of, and that's trying to compensate.
And part of that comes from the imbalance in the hips. So just like with the shoulder, but more importantly in the hips, they are the most mobile joints, rather. Hips, they are very, very mobile, but not very stable. The difference between the shoulders and the hips though, hips are weight bearing. So when the hips are off, the rest of the body will adopt and adapt to those patterns. And so we do have slight elevation of this right hip. And so what that's going to do is Yeah, this is my right side. So it's gonna somewhat bring that leg up on that side, and we have unequal weight distribution. So that's why we have that kind of tilting or leaning towards that left side. We also have some rotation in the hips as well. Can you see that that right hip is wider than that left hip?
I feel like that. You ever seen that social media where one of these circles is bigger than the other? I mean, I guess. It seemed like I can see it.
Yes. So that right hip is wider than that left hip. So that means that that right hip is rotated forward because we see more of it. And so your body is adapting to that, or trying to at least. So in this area as well, making sure we balance those hips out, but then also to muscle work, soft tissue work. Stretches, definitely strengthening the muscles as well, because again, muscle attaches to bone. And we want to help your body to know where it should be and what it should be doing, hold your adjustments longer as well. And then we will go to lower back from the side. So just like in the neck, we do need to see a backward C banana shaped curve, which we do have a backward C banana shaped curve. Sweet spot for the lower back is 45 versus the 42-45, but I'm not necessarily upset about the curve that you do have in the lower back, but we could have a little bit more, because instead of us getting more equal weight distribution throughout the curve in your lower back, that weight is settling more so on the back parts of your discs. And so that's where we get that disc wedging, which is when we have thicker spaces of disc in the front versus in the back. And so going back to what I mentioned before, how those discs help to keep the holes that our nerves come out of open. You see, these are the holes here. But as you get further and further down towards the spine, you see how the holes start to close up, especially that one. I know we don't have too many issues going on in the lower back, but I remember you saying every now and then you might feel something. But regardless of that, we want to prevent this from turning into any issues, because that nerve does not have adequate room to pass through at all. And so I see it present many different ways. It can start with tightness, stiffness, maybe some dull achiness. It can get sharp, and then it can turn into, in more severe cases, definitely can turn into like numbness and tingling, especially going down the leg, even sciatic pain, because the nerves that come from that area have to make up that sciatic nerve. So not only do we want to make sure that we're pain-free, but we also want to prevent things from happening in the future.
Understood.
Okay, so we definitely want to work on decompressing that area, opening up that space so that nerve can breathe. Okay. These are your x-rays.
Looks good. Well, looks bad, but good but bad. Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But thank you. Yeah, it makes sense. It seems like it's all about the curve.
It is. Like I mentioned before too, that spinal cord has to run all the way down throughout that spine. And so when we lose those curves, again, that creates that tension and pulling on the spinal cord. So I want you to go like this. Now take your other hand, take these two fingers, and I want you to pinch this skin right here. Got it? Straighten the hand all the way out. That's the tension and pulling on your spinal cord the further away from the curves that we are. So we do want to support the natural curves of the spine and maintain them.
Got it.
Okay. Yeah. Now you're certified to read x-rays.
Oh yeah, it's good. I see it. Now, yeah, it makes good, perfect sense.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can see how my neck, the past surgery, and potentially my hip rotation and unevenness could be adversely affecting up there.
Absolutely. So that means I did that.
Yeah, you did great. Great presentation.
Oh, good. Especially with me recording.
Yeah, gotta make sure you're good.
Yes.
Nah, that was very good.
Yeah.
Do you ever do speaking engagements?
Nope.
Okay, so you can speak one-on-one, but not in front of
Yes, that's not my ministry. Not my ministry at all. All right, we'll make sure you have access to these, so that way, no matter where you go, what you do, you know exactly what your spine looks like, where you started, and then we'll start to get some changes, and we'll do that first with adjustment.
Is it like an app that I have access?
We can give you an app too, or we can email.
Okay,
either
got it. Oh yeah.
Either one. All right, so the lead doc is going to adjust you. So I'll bring you on out here, and he's going to do the adjustment out here. Okay?
Thank you.
Of course.